Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
No, you're very welcome. I'm delighted to be here, Joe.
Me too. So let's get into it. I always start off with the COVID question. And I know that we get fatigued by it, but I think it was such a seminal moment in our existence. So 5 years ago, at this point, it was really like getting to that point where do you wear a mask and how do we operate? So many things were unknown. But ultimately, how did you get through that time period and how did it alter or change the way that you do things now?
No, I love that you asked this question and that you keep asking this question. I think it's fantastic.
Right.
So, I suppose the short answer would be we crashed and burnt. That would be my short answer. We
Yeah.
realised that we couldn't carry on in the way that we were. I'd been travelling backwards and forwards. So, we were living in England at the time. I'd been travelling backwards and forwards to Los Angeles actually for about 3 years, chasing a dream, really at a point where I felt I was going to sign with a manager and I was going to sign with an agent, and all of our life was going to be sorted. Chasing a dream, really, and kind of avoiding what I needed to do. So that's another story. My
Yeah.
husband was in events, so he used to have to go and do stuff in person. He did IT. There were no events. And we actually lost our house.
Wow.
And I think the worst part of that was having to tell my children, my two sons, I knew it was going to happen and it happened. And then actually having to sit and tell them. And their response was so beautiful. They were just like, it's okay, it's fine. And so we had to go and live with my mum, which was challenging. So it's me, my husband, we're in our 50s,
Yeah.
in our late 40s at the time, and our two teenage sons. And living with my mum was very humbling and very healing. Um, and what it did for us really was show us that the way that we'd been living just wasn't tenable. We couldn't
Yeah.
carry on in the way that we were. And it led me personally to understand the value of freedom. That really led us to what we're doing now, which has been traveling for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And also truth.
Yeah.
I really wanted to know the truth. There was so much that was happening at that time that was fishy to me, that made me feel uncomfortable. And I had a real challenge because I had to ask my guardian angel Trasan how to address what was happening in the world, because there were things that I personally wanted to say, but my guardian angel advised me quite wisely and rightly that this was not my role to divide, but to
Yeah.
bring people together. And so helping people to trust, to get their own answers, to find their own truth is really what shaped and gave me that real motivation to develop my work.
I think the one thing that's a silver lining of what you're talking about is prior to COVID, there was this mentality of running as hard as you can to get as much as you can, whether
Mm.
it's material, whether it's titles, acclaim, this whole thing. And I think as humanity, we were a car teetering on the edge of the cliff to begin with that level of mentality. Because if you don't find depth, you don't find what your soul is here for and what you're supposed to do, you're going to flounder until you figure that out. And it doesn't matter how much money you have. I've been around really wealthy people and they just seem like they're a mess. Like they still have the same things that people that are blue collar have, but then
Mm.
there's all of this added stress of all of these different revenue lines and different, obligations and phone ringing all the time. It's like there's a level of, like you say, freedom, which I've learned from the jazz community is one of the most. Whenever I ask a jazz musician, why do you love this music? It's always freedom.
Wow.
Just, whether it's literal or it's speculative, it's that idea that you don't have fences around you. Because one of my favorite poets said at one point, we're born geniuses and buried idiots. And it's
Uh,
that idea that we put all these fences around us. We put all these restrictions. We let fear rule us instead of freedom. So it's interesting that um so let me ask you this.
Mm.
With this epiphany that you had with
Mm.
your new charter in life, if I put you in front of a bunch of kids right now, because they're the
Mm.
truth serum, and they wanted to know what you do for a living, 12-year-olds
Mm.
at career day, how would you answer them?
Oh, that's great. Do you know, my son, so I've got two sons, okay? I've got a 14-year-old son and a 19-year-old son. And last night, my son said to me, my eldest son said to me, um, at what age do you think I should show my own children how to do what you do? Because he is learning to channel. He asks my guardian angel questions, and they're not like me and my husband. They're very different, our boys. Their opinions, their interests, the things that they want to do and be. And he said, what age do you think that I should tell them? And I said, well, really as early as possible, because once you learn how to communicate with your highest guide, with your guardian angel, once you're able to ask questions and receive answers, which remove self-doubt, which remove questions, which save you time, which mean that you can be yourself, live your purpose, find purpose. The earlier you can start, the better.
Yeah.
And he said, but it's such a gift, it's such an ability, it's almost too big. And it's just interesting timing of this. And I said, but if you learn to do it yourself and you share that with your children, then you'll understand it and you'll be able to support them through the process. And you will never be able to ask a question and receive an answer that isn't going to empower you and help you in your life. So if I was in front of a group of like young kids, and I had any advice to give to them, I would help them to take the first step, which is really connecting with themselves. There's a really lovely process that is part of how I teach people how to communicate with their guardian angels. And it's just putting your hand on your heart center, thumb under your collarbone, finger under the other side of your collarbone, and saying to yourself, I love you. I accept you for all that you are. I love you unconditionally. And coming back to self is the way that you can really, really grow. That's what I would say. I would teach them that.
Do we all have guardian angels?
Yeah,
Every one of us. Yeah.
every one of us that's alive and every one of us that was conceived.
Okay.
So from the moment of conception, and this was actually a really wonderful question to ask Tristan, which my boys wanted to know the answer to. At
Yeah.
what point does life become? From the moment of conception,
Yeah.
you are assigned a guardian angel, and they're with you to help you to fulfill your purpose. That's all they're with you to help you to accomplish, to help you to be who you've come here to be. Everybody has one, and I teach people how to communicate so that they can get those answers. Because I see so many people not moving forward with ideas, not expressing themselves as who they are, not enjoying that freedom that
Yeah.
you just described
Yeah.
because they doubt. Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this going to work out? Is this the right step for me to take? And the empowerment of your guardian angel is what removes all of that. And it is empowerment. It's not your guardian angel doing things for you. It's not your guardian angel telling you you must do this. It's a really beautiful dynamic of empowerment. That is what your guardian angel is with all of us to help us to accomplish, to help us to be, and teaching people how to do that for themselves, showing people how to do that for themselves is it's just the most wonderful way. It's how
Yeah.
we live our life. It's how
Yeah.
we are able to travel.
And the problem with all of that is that humans tend to be empirical. We have to have some level of scientific data that proves that we can see certain things. But then you can kind of replace that with faith and then kind of the unknown. I think it's all about, especially as you get older, because you realize that your time's kind of running out. Not imminently, but it is. And it's embracing what's going to be on the other side because there's that inevitability that you never think about when you're younger.
Yeah, you're dead right. And, empirical evidence is interesting. There are so many people in my world now who come from empirical, evidence-based medical, scientific backgrounds who are saying to me, I know there's more than this. I know there's more than science has taught me. I know there's more than I understand. And they want to learn how to access truth. And they want to be able to demonstrate that truth, to be able to gain evidence that supports the facts and the information that they're provided with. But also, in everyday life, when people are able to ask their guardian angel questions and get answers, and they're able to apply that to their life, and that is what their guardian angel always encourages them to do. It is practical implementation is something I talk about a lot. Practical implementation. You've got to do something with the answer that you get. And it does give you that proof. It does give you that something which transcends faith, blind faith. I never encourage that.
Right.
It's asking a question that you want an answer to, it's getting that answer, and it's applying it to your life so that you do have the evidence that you need to continue to trust in and develop that relationship.
You know, anybody that I've ever really trusted to talk about things of spirituality or divinity always presents a higher being, God, however you want to term it, as something that's overly benevolent. And I've always thought that our brains aren't big enough to conceptualize something like a creator. We just literally, I heard it, there was an interview that Stephen Colbert asked Ethan Hawke about something in relationship to God or eternity, and it was basically we can't wrap our heads around it. So based on what you're saying, it seems as though having a hard time wrapping your head around the divinity, the ultimate deity, it's probably a little bit more attainable for us to get the spoke of light from the sunshine, which would be a guardian angel. You know, a little bit more of what our brains, can figure out and wrap our heads around because it is big. And I think that's why it's so confusing. We just don't have the brain capacity. And maybe there's beings that exist somewhere else in space that are using 50% of their whatever they would call their brain. And they can conceptualize that. But I think that's the thing about where we're at. Um, I mean, do you believe that this is kind of a spiritual training ground? How do you believe our place in the universe and on the timeline of where we're going?
Oh, wow, this is such a fantastic question. So, in terms of wrapping your head around, there is the creator, the center of the universe, the source of pure love, sometimes referred to as God, although that has real limitations and that has real kind of creates fragmentation.
Yeah,
Really, the personal nature of your guardian angel, I think, is easier to wrap your head around because your guardian angel is with you, only for you, to help you to fulfill your purpose.
yeah,
Now, some people find that difficult to accept, that there is an angel with them to help them to accomplish that. And it's more than that, you see, because when your guardian angel helps you to fulfill your purpose here on earth, you contribute positively to the expansion of the universe.
yeah,
So it's a selfish, self-focused, individual, personal experience that you are here to have. But through doing so, you contribute positively to the expansion of the universe. Now, that sounds like a very wordy thing to say, but
yeah,
when you look at real life, when you meet people who are fulfilled, when you meet people who are happy, when you meet people who are have great relationships, enjoying good levels of health, they really are happy people, content people. They contribute positively to the expansion of the universe in so many ways, through the way they interact with others, through a casual smile, through a warmness and openness, eye contact, in greater ways too, through the work that they choose to do. So it really does make sense. It's not really that difficult to wrap your head around. It is accepting that you are here with a unique purpose and that you have an angel with you to help you to accomplish that for you, but also so that that energy can contribute to us consciousness and also to the expansion of the universe. And in terms of our personal development or our spiritual development, as you put it, in terms of like, the evolution of what we're here to do and be. We are here on a spiritual path. It is a training ground, if you like. We are here to learn and grow through personal development. Sometimes people really separate those two, often, normally, personal development and spiritual development, and they're absolutely part of the same thing, because you can only develop so far spiritually as you are able, or at the level as you are personally, and vice versa. It is an interaction of you being you, you interacting with the world and with others from this place of having grown and understanding, and for it to be blended. And that's another thing about your guardian angel. It's about living life in that blended way, living life in a way that means that is collaborative. They're not doing things for you. You're not delegating responsibility. You are doing things together. And then that spiritual and personal dynamic really comes into play.
So what did you want to be when you were 12 years old? What was your dream life?
Oh, I can remember thinking I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I can remember people would ask you what you want to be, and I want to be a fighter pilot. I wonder if that had anything to do with Top Gun. It might have done,
Yeah.
actually. I was a real tomboy,
Yeah.
and I was very action orientated, and that felt like a suitable profession,
Yeah.
something that was quite glamorous, and you had to be really smart to do something like that. It was a good reply. So that's what I would have said. But
Yeah.
other than that, I had absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
I've done so many different things in my life. I'm very interested in growing, learning, and doing new things.
Yeah.
Freedom's always been an important thing for me. Anything I can do that I feel excited about when I wake up, that's what I've always wanted to do, and that's what I do
That's
now.
yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. You're leading people to their guardian angels. You're doing a huge service for people to like find their destiny. Do you have to protect yourself? Are there any dangers that are involved in this?
That's such a great word. So people will often use the word protection,
Yeah.
and people talk a lot about like one thing that I find a little bit unpleasant is when people speak about like spiritual hygiene and
Yeah.
stuff like that, as though
Yeah.
it's like dirty or something. I don't know, you got anti-bac, yeah,
Yeah.
aura or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I find that quite funny.
Yeah.
So I don't work from protection, and I'll tell you why. Because protection is already a word that comes from fear. Because if you're protecting yourself from something, it's because you're worried about some kind of an attack, some kind of an invasion or an intrusion. Protection is like, I'm trying to keep something out.
Yeah.
The way that I've always worked is from an energy of radiating the qualities that I want more of. I work from an energy of complete integrity, complete honesty. I work with people who I adore and love working with. It's interesting. I was talking to a client the other day, and she said, "You're not very easy to find, are you? You're not on TikTok. You're not got all this stuff going on social media. I've got a YouTube channel, but it's very quiet.
Yeah.
And I like it that way because
Yeah.
people come to me that resonate with me. They find my book, maybe. But no, I don't protect. I've
Yeah.
never been like that. And I have an ability to, when I'm with someone, to be with that person completely. And then once I'm not with them, I'm not with them anymore. But as I'm speaking to you, I'm thinking about how when I was younger and my spiritual, because I was born being able to do this, that was part of the problem. I was
Yeah.
born to do this. And I had to create boundaries because I was able to access all things at all times. I knew what people were thinking. I used to get woken up at night, and it was exhausting. And protection wasn't something I ever thought about. For me, a better way of describing it would be boundaries.
Yeah.
I was found it difficult to say no as a person,
Yeah.
felt like I wanted to help everybody. And so that's what I had to learn to say no
Yeah.
so that I could say yes.
So the one thing I know when I was a kid, I did the Ouija board and it freaked me out. And then I did it later on for one of my stepsons because I didn't want him to do it with his friends. And it really freaked me out. I got into a scenario and did some research and found out it was a real bad middling ground. Do you have any thoughts on how dangerous that is to mingle with the spiritual middle ground?
Oh, it's just a really stupid idea.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's kind of glam. Like Ouija board is like it's like in movies and stuff as well, isn't it? Like taken in a kind of light. It's like I've seen a few, movies from like the 80s. I keep that's the second reference to the 80s today. But like movies from the 80s, like doing the Ouija board and stuff, and it's like almost like rite of passage. It's something that kids do. You go to like some creepy deserted house, don't you? And you do the Ouija board. And I never did anything like that.
Yeah,
And actually, I grew up in a house where I don't come from a spiritual background. Like I haven't got the granny who taught me how to do all the things. It wasn't like that at all for me.
yeah,
Never had anyone in my life to help me through this spiritual path. I mean, it is dangerous. Honestly, it is dangerous. And once I think you know that there's a way of getting answers or a way of being guided, led through life, which is really exciting and which is really accurate and which really can empower and support you. You never go into that other area. And there's a lot of dark energy,
yeah,
like there's enough dark energy without having to
yeah,
bring any more in. And if you ever do have an experience or if you've done it and you ever feel, because I mean, that can really mess with your mind thinking about that. A great thing to do is an etheric cord cutting process. I've actually got on my YouTube channel etheric cord cutting meditation, and it's just a great way of cutting through any negative energy attachments, I call them, to relate to anything at all, relating to any situations or relationships that you've had. Just cutting those cords with Archangel
yeah,
Michael, who is the complete positive angel of that brings, real strength and just helps you to release that heaviness and then creating connections because negative is attachment, it's clinging, it's hooky.
yeah,
Connection is love and beautiful and open. So, what you want to do is you want to develop a connection rather than having attachments. I hope that's an
yeah.
okay answer for you.
Totally.
Does that
No,
make
that's
you feel okay,
no,
Joe?
that's great. That's wonderful. That's what I was looking for. So I'm curious in all of these travels, and most importantly, your evolution as a human being. What are you the proudest of?
My kids.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, yeah, I mean that they are following their interests, that they're doing what they want to do, and that we've taken a step outside of like that we've listened to that feeling of wanting freedom
Yeah.
and that we've created an environment where they can pursue their interests, do the things that they want to do. Yeah, my kids, yeah. I don't mean it's because they are who they are. They're not
Yeah.
like me. They're not like
Yeah.
my husband, and they're not like little mini me's. They are very different and very unique, and they have their own ideas and their own thoughts and trusting that they can be self-motivated and so self-propelling and find what they love to do and enjoy doing that. And at 14 and 19, have be building businesses for themselves that they love to do.
Yeah.
That is a reflection of who they are. And yeah, that they follow their interests. I think that's just such an unusual that they have them
Yeah.
and that they follow them. I think that's really quite unusual today,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. It certainly is. So speaking of being unique, everyone has a perception of you out there. Family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run your show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, a very young girl, really. Um, I'm quite, I've always been quite, always felt quite naive. I think outwardly,
Yeah.
I have a really quite a confident air about me. But I'm just quite a young girl inside. And I think for a long time that felt like a barrier or a challenge that I needed to be something more or different. But being that little girl inside is great because I can be playful and I can be light and I can remember to have fun and I can stay wide-eyed to things. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Fresh. I think when I connect with people, um, being able to see things from that point of view is something that I believe brings a lightness, which is sometimes hard to find.
Yeah. It's interesting. The older I've gotten, I've had an epiphany that I feel like I'm protecting my younger self. Like I'll be cognizant of where I was, and I try to kind of tap into the things that are unharmed by this world and really protect that level so that it can become a part of who I am as an adult because you never want to, you don't want to lose that wonder because if you do that, then, you give up your freedom, so to speak. Um,
Yeah.
So, sometimes I think when I run into people, open a door for someone, or someone opens a door for me, we have all these random chances that happen in life, all these
Mm.
very minute things. And as human beings, we always search for meaning and depth. Do you believe that every single thing we do, whether we drive by someone on the other side of the highway in a car, that every single thing that we do, every moment of our day, that we come into contact with another heartbeat, that it's like meant to be?
No.
Okay. All right, I've always been curious about that. If maybe some of these minute things mean more, or if it's just there's a lot of people, we don't have enough room, we're gonna run into each other.
I'm being silly when I answer it like that.
Yeah,
But the way I want to kind of explain that is like some things are meant to be. Opportunities, for example, really do present themselves. Your guardian angel is wanting to communicate with you in lots of different ways. So, for example, you keep seeing numbers, that's a sure sign that your guardian angel is trying to communicate with you.
yeah,
That's a sure sign, depending on what the numbers are. And I've got a number guide that I'd be delighted to share with your audience if they want that, so that they can begin to understand what those numbers mean. Like, what does 22 mean? What does 44 mean? All the stuff that you see on receipts and all kinds of things. They're absolute messages. But I think what can happen sometimes is that people kind of like put everything down to meaning something.
yeah.
And it's very distracting. Um, I do also believe that perception, the way that you perceive, the way that you interpret situations is really important. I think maybe that's more important than what happens.
Uh-huh.
It's how you perceive that thing happening. You know, in life, you get people who can interpret one situation in completely polar opposite ways. And I think that knowing that everything that's happening is happening to help you, even if it's really doesn't feel like it,
Yeah.
it's really happening to help you. I think that's how you can really lift up, rise up above all things.
That's such a great answer. So, if anyone wants to get your book, they want to reach out, they're curious about how numbers work, I think we've really scratched the surface well. How can they pursue this further?
Yeah, sure. So the number guide is really helpful. I can give you a link so people can download that. It'll tell you what the numbers mean. And there's also a lovely little follow along. We sit and do it together.
Yeah.
Channel of Clarity is the book that I wrote with Tristan, one of a number of books that I've written, which teaches you those steps of how to connect with and then begin to communicate with your guardian angel. So that's Channel of Clarity, and that's on Amazon. And if anyone wants to go and come by my website, they're very welcome to. Angels with Ros, and I'm on Facebook. I don't post a lot up, but if you've heard me here and you want to say hi, I would love to hear from you. Send me a message, send me a friend request. It's not really any more complicated than that, very normal.
Absolutely. And I'll have all of those links. I'll look for the link as well. Roz, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. This has been very illuminating. I've loved it. Thank you.
So, boy, thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you.
Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.